Radha Namostute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you again for joining. Last time we covered chapter 10, and so today we will cover chapter 11 of the Nectar of Devotion. So last time the chapter was very short, you may remember. It focused on worshiping the deity and hearing and remembering about Krishna. And today's chapter, chapter 11, continues forward with items 47 to 53 of the 64 Angas of Bhakti, with an emphasis on servitude, friendship, and surrender. So we have almost completed the 64 Angas of Bhakti. We're now from 47 to 53. And as you can see, they're very, very relishable. Also, this section is very straightforward of the Nectar of Devotion. So we're going through the different items of Bhakti and pretty much expanding on what Prabhupada has described and told us about in terms of the Nectar of Devotion, in the Nectar Devotion, the expansion or the explanation that he has given for these items. So 47, one should render some voluntary service. In addition to our normal services, we often go to the temple and render voluntary services. And sometimes actually I've wondered that, is this a waste of time? Maybe I should just focus on my sadhana and on my specific services assigned to me. But no, it's actually Anga Bhakti. It's very nice to just help out sometimes. One should render some voluntary service. And Krishna notices it and Krishna appreciates it. That's why it's so nice actually to read the Nectar of Devotion again and again from time to time, because we forget these points and we think, well, am I doing what I'm doing? Is it right? And also it deepens our faith that Prabhupada's process is so perfect and so complete. Srila Prabhupada's process is so natural, and it's in fact the way of bhakti is intended. It's the way that Rupa Goswami and the Acharyas intended devotional service to be. So we should render some voluntary service, working hard for Krishna, serving Krishna pays off. And many devotees who performed voluntary service for Prabhupada or for his movement became very great devotees just by that service, which becomes our agyata sukriti. It becomes to our credit. And later on, it leads to something more regular or tangible, something very nice. If one is not interested in the pleasure of the Lord, but offers Krishna the results of one's activities, such as bhakti, but not pure bhakti, it is karma yoga. So if one is not interested in the pleasure of the Lord, but offers the results of one's activities, It's not pure bhakti, it's karma yoga. Prabhupada writes that the activities of Varna ashram contain elements that are identical to those of bhakti. Therefore, even the karma kandis gradually become purified. To serve means to only think of pleasing the Lord, but a neophyte who is fixed on the goal of simply pleasing Krishna, but is still attracted to sense gratification, can offer the results of his or her activities as part of the gradual process of pure bhakti. So, even the process of Varna ashram is ultimately aimed towards Krishna, and Varna ashram is encouraged in the scriptures because there are elements of bhakti. There are activities of bhakti within Varna ashram which gradually lead one to Krishna. So we start with karma yoga, and gradually we come to the level of pure bhakti. And karma yoga when purified is bhakti yoga. Therefore, Prabhupada says that karma yoga is bhakti yoga. Because when we do everything for Krishna, then it becomes bhakti. But initially, there's some fruit of desire, and that needs to be purified over time. And voluntary service helps us do that. It helps us purify our desires and gradually come to the level of pure devotional service, where everything, our whole life is voluntary then. One should think of the Lord as one's friend. This is an image of Sudama and Krishna. One should think of the Lord as one's friend. So what does this mean? So friendship as sadhana bhakti. Vishvasa, the Lord is my friend and protector. So the first level is the Lord is my friend and protector. Even the spiritual master is one's friend. Although the spiritual master is one's guru, but he's also a friend. There's also a relationship of friendship there. Another level is mitra. I am the Lord's friend, and I try to make him happy. We should also think that I am the Lord's friend. He is my friend, so I should reciprocate, and I am also his friend. And this is a very key, important aspect of bhakti. Vishvasa means to have strong faith or confidence in the Lord as one's benefactor. So when we have unshakable faith that the Lord is our benefactor, he is our friend, he will protect us, that is called Vishvasa, the first stage of friendship. The terms Shraddha, faith, and Vishvasa are synonymous, but are used with different shades of meaning. Here, Vishvasa is a practice for bringing about a particular result of Shraddha, and also being the topmost result of Shraddha. So Vishwas basically means Shraddha, right? Vishwas means, have to have firm faith. Shraddha also means to have firm faith. But Vishvasa is more faith as Krishna as your friend. Shraddha can be faith in the process of bhakti. Shraddha can be faith in the devotees. But Vishvasa is particularly, Vishvasa means, Shraddha means I have faith in something. Vishvasa means that I have confidence in my friend's protection. Just like if we have a very powerful friend, then we have confidence in life. We're confident. The devotee who has confidence in devotional service to the Lord systematically follows the rules and regulations with the faith that he will achieve the platform of transcendental life. So nice, Prabhupada is written. But the faith that he will achieve the platform of transcendental life. Sometimes we don't think, like I personally don't think that I'll make it. I don't think that I have, that I'll be fortunate enough to get it. But Prabhupada is telling us we should have that. The devotee who has confidence in devotional service to the Lord systematically follows the rules and regulations with the faith that he will achieve the platform of transcendental life. Similarly, Draupadi says, O Govinda, remembering again and again your promise that your devotee will never perish, I maintain my life. So, here you see Maharaj Yudhishthir with his 4 brothers and Draupadi. And she had gone through the most hellish experience and the most insulting experience for a queen to be pulled in an assembly by her hair strewn everywhere, in just her, you could say, wrapped in a night dress, and then tempted to be disrobed. If she was disrobed, then it would have been, basically the end of her life. But Krishna protects her. But in spite of her protection, it was devastating. But knowing that Krishna never lets the devotee perish, she maintains her life. And then we also see that she had so much faith in Krishna's promise that his devotee does not perish, that when Dushasana tried to disrobe her, rather than resisting it, she raises up her arms and cries out, "Hey Govinda," with full surrender. She could have cried it out while holding on to her sari, but showing her full surrender to the Lord, her full, firm faith, confidence in the friendship and protection of the Lord, she throws up her arms in the air and calls out, "O Govinda," and at that very moment, Krishna appears. "In all kinds of tribulations, I simply remember your promise, and thus I live." This is Draupadi. The lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are one's life and soul. One will not give up his shelter as the lotus feet of the Lord, his shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, even for a single moment. The lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are one's life and soul. One will not give up his shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, even for a single moment. So this is the mood. And, we were looking at that previous slide. Prabhupada actually tells us, what does that mean, that confidence? And it means that therefore the devotee never gives up following the rules and regulations of bhakti. That surrender, that focus, that attachment to the Lord, it only comes, and it comes when there's this unflinching faith, the unflinching surrender and faith in the protection of the Lord. And there's the very rigorous and unstoppable practice of sadhana bhakti, of the rules and regulations. Really, if we want to feel this way, that the lotus feet of the Lord are heart and soul, we have to dedicate our life to Krishna. And dedicating our life to Krishna means rigidly following sadhana bhakti, waking up early in the morning, chanting our rounds, doing mangalarti. Otherwise, it stays a little superficial. It's there, but making Krishna's lotus feet one's life and soul means that we won't be interested in sleeping so much. We won't be interested in other things, and we'll be interested in having the opportunity to worship the Lord, to chant about him, to think about him. Even in the exchange for the benediction of ruling the entire universe, or taking the post of a devata, the devotee will not give up the Lord's service. And there's a very wonderful example of this in Srila Prabhupada's life. Damal Krishna Maharaj, in his memories of Srila Prabhupada, he mentions how Prabhupada on many occasions praised the devotion of Yamuna Devi. He praised her, Yamuna Devi Dasi, who was one of his disciples. She's passed away. He praised her devotion. She wrote the cookbooks. She taught all the devotees how to cook for Krishna. That was her specialty. And Prabhupada personally taught her how to do that. And she also sang the Govindam prayers that are played in every temple of ISKCON. At Shingarati, Prabhupada personally said that they should be. So she was clearly an extraordinary devotee, because Prabhupada knew that now her tape will be played for all time in every temple for the next 10,000 years at least. So he wouldn't want someone who's not very spiritually advanced, that their voice be played. But he instructed that her tape should be played, this Govindam should be played. So extraordinary devotion. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj said that Prabhupada even mentioned that she was on the level of bhava. She had reached or attained the stage of bhava. Prabhupada also said that, many wonderful things about her. So, one time, George Harrison, as you know, this group of devotees, which included Mother Yamuna, they brought George Harrison to Krishna consciousness. And when George Harrison comes to Krishna consciousness, then he's also, you could say, affected, influenced by Yamuna Devi's divine qualities. People could see that she's an extraordinary devotee. And he also greatly admired and was very touched, spiritually touched by her singing. They recorded the Radha Krishna album, which, it became very famous. And so George Harrison, at a certain point, went to Mother Yamuna and said, "If you join my band, I will make you one of the most famous singers in the whole world." Like, the Beatles, there are five. I think there are five Beatles, and they're like most famous. He wanted to add her. And she said, "We will make the Hare Krishna mantra and this transcendental sound will make it famous all over the world. Just join me and you sing." And he even told her, "You don't have to sing mundane songs or anything," because he also was becoming a devotee, that he just wanted to do kirtan. He said, "You just do kirtan, and I'll make you one of the most famous people in the world." And Mother Yamuna recalls that at that time, she was faced with this. Well, here's a great preaching opportunity, but in order to join George Harrison, I'll have to leave Srila Prabhupada and my service to him. She was cooking for Prabhupada. She was Prabhupada's, right-hand lady, so to say. She was doing so many services for him. And she thought about it, and she went back to George Harrison, and she, without asking Prabhupada, and she said, "I can't leave him. There's no way I can leave Srila Prabhupada. And so, we can record an album here, but I won't leave my service." And George Harrison then knew that she is a pure devotee of the Lord. That especially at that time in the hippie era where, music was everything. These people lived for music, and, it wasn't like, we went to college or anything. And the Beatles, they were like, even now they're so famous. You go airports and you hear, they're playing. But at that time, they were the band in the world. They were the top musicians in the whole world. Who would turn down such a thing? Imagine if, President Biden comes and says, if you join my cabinet, I'll be very grateful. I mean, who of us will turn that down? We'll give you, make you the governor of New York. It was like that, but she turned it down. So even in the exchange for the benediction of ruling the entire universe or taking the post of a devata, the devotee will not leave their service to Krishna. Of course, taking the post of a devata or ruling the entire universe can be our service. But if Krishna has not given us that service, if that's not our service, if it's for that position, they will not give it up. For the service, they will accept it if needed, but they will not give up their service. So the summary of Vishvasa: the Lord is my benefactor and friend and my only shelter. From him only I get maintenance and protection. I take solace in his promise of protection in all difficulties, and I will not give up his shelter for any material opulence. This is the point, that One will not give up his shelter for any material opulence. Because every material opulence is given by him only, the devotee knows. He is my friend. He is my shelter. So what is the point of giving this up, giving up his protection for material opulence, when the material opulence, the devotee knows, is coming from Krishna. And in fact, Krishna is the ultimate insurance policy. He protects us in all difficulties. We're so afraid now, nuclear war may happen or food may finish in this world, all this thing that we try to. But if we are devotees of Krishna, then we know that we have the ultimate protection policy. So our fear goes away. We don't have to worry about anything. We don't have to, think about where should I invest here, there. We can just depend on Krishna's protection and know that we'll have that protection, whereas all the other plans that people are making, they will fail. But a devotee will never perish because of Krishna's protection. And that is the faith of Krishna as my friend and benefactor. The second type of devotional friendship is to become a well-wisher of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So now, in some ways, even a more intimate mood is recognizing not only that Krishna is our friend, but we are a well-wisher of Krishna. Sorry. So, one thing is that Krishna becomes our well-wisher, but Mother Yashoda thinks that, of course, she's not in the friendship mood, but just to give an example, she thinks that not that I am Krishna, but Krishna's mine. In the same way, the devotee thinks that Krishna is my friend, but I am also Krishna's friend. I am also Krishna's well-wisher. So I should do things that will be good for Krishna, that will be pleasing to Krishna and good for his reputation. And what does that mean? Prabhupada defines here. And then we see how intimate of a service preaching is, how glorious it is to be a preacher. There's a big controversy in ISKCON at one point, is preaching the highest service, or is, meditating on Krishna the highest service, or what's the highest service? Prabhupada says in the Nectar devotion, anyone who is preaching the confidential message of the Gita to the people in general is so dear to Krishna that no one can be equal to him in human society. No one can be equal to him in human society. How dear is preaching to Krishna? He says this in the Gita himself. Krishna says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kashidyatati siddhaye. That in this world, there's no one more dear to me than him, nor will there be ever one more dear. Anyone who is preaching the confidential message of Gita is so dear to Krishna that no one can be equal to him in human society. So when we do book distribution, when we teach others about Krishna, when we preach to others about Krishna, we become very dear to Krishna because we are acting as a friend. How is a friend? Just like if we have a friend and someone's bad-mouthing our friend, we try to improve or protect that friend's reputation. Or if we have a friend, and if we're truly a friend to that friend, then we go to others and say, you know how wonderful this person is? You know how great they are? You know how nice they are? They did this and they did that. In the same way, if Krishna is our friend, then the devotee thinks, I should make my Lord more popular. These people have forgotten about Krishna. Let me go and tell him about Krishna and let them know how wonderful Krishna is. So anyone who's preaching the confidential message of the Gita to the people in general is so dear to Krishna because he is always telling others about Krishna and he's doing Krishna's work. Also, when we have a friend, we try to do what is pleasing to them. Krishna's pain in his heart, his only pain is his separation from his dearmost children. Just like we are suffering due to separation from Krishna, Krishna's also feeling pain due to separation from his own children, these living entities. So a true friend is a person who alleviates the pain of his friend. So by bringing souls back to Krishna, the devotee is alleviating Krishna's pain, and that the devotee is doing out of his dear friendship for Krishna. And Krishna therefore also accepts that devotee as his friend. When we preach, Prabhupada explains, then Krishna becomes very indebted to us. The spiritual master also becomes indebted to us. This is why preaching is so wonderful. If we want to make our spiritual master and Krishna indebted to us, then we should preach. Why indebted? Because the spiritual master has received instructions from his spiritual master to preach. And so when we do that, we're helping. We are fulfilling the instruction that our spiritual master has received. We're allowing them to please their spiritual master because we as their disciple are, they preach to us, and we as their disciple, if we preach, then essentially the credit goes to them because they made a better disciple. They made a good disciple. So the spiritual master feels indebted to the disciple when they preach. And in that indebtedness, then the disciple gets the blessings of the spiritual master and the blessings of Krishna. So preaching, therefore, is so wonderful. We will get everything. There's a very wonderful example of this. So many examples of this where devotees who preach, they get the personal service of their spiritual master. If they distributed books, then they would get Prabhupada's audience. Prabhupada would give them special time. If they distributed a lot of books, then Prabhupada would give that party of Sankirtan devotees a special darshan or special time. Why? Because he was expressing his indebtedness. Of course, we are unlimitedly indebted to the spiritual master and Krishna. So we should not think, oh, I'm preaching now, and now, see, my spiritual master is indebted to us. They feel indebted to us due to their love and their desire, and they are indebted to us. But then we are trying to pay off our debt to the spiritual master. And there's no way we can actually repay that debt. So this is just, from our side, it's just a small token of our appreciation. It's just like people say that, it's a karmi saying that, you part of the way you express your indebtedness to your parents is by having your own children, right? Because when you take care of your children, then you actually factually recognize the sacrifice that they did for you. Until that point, theoretically, we know, oh, my parents did so much for me, but we actually don't understand the pain that they take for us. And by helping another child, we are, recognizing that and also engaging in that same activity and that same sacrifice that our parents did. And thus we feel more grateful. In the same way, when we preach, then we understand how much pain these devotees took, how much pain the spiritual master took to bring us to Krishna. And when we recognize that, then then our heart actually becomes humble and grateful. And humility and gratitude, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that humility and gratitude are the gateway to the spiritual world. They are the bridge to the spiritual world. So if we're preaching properly and nicely, it'll actually make us more humble and grateful, because we'll see how much our spiritual master sacrificed to help us, how much devotees sacrifice to save other souls. In regard to worshiping the Lord as a friend, the Agastya Samhita states that a devotee engaged in performing devotional service by Shravanam and Kirtanam sometimes wants to see the Lord personally, and for this purpose he resides in the temple. A person who is dedicated to serving the Lord and out of friendship sees and treats him as a human lies down in the Lord's temple. So this is again the feeling of possessiveness, that the Lord is my benefactor, he's my well-wisher. But then there's also this feeling that the Lord belongs to me, and the Lord, I must protect the Lord. I must care for the Lord, because if I don't care for the Lord, who will care for him? You know, he's the supreme personality of God, and he can take care of him anytime. But you see this mood in devotees, and therefore, you know, they'll sleep in the same room as their deities. They will, they will serve their deities. They'll do, you know, like in a way that is very protective. I like the story of Lord Nila Madhava, right? Lord Jagannath's story, and I think Vishvasu, the Shabra, he did not want to share the whereabouts of Lord Nila Madhava to anyone, and he's the most beautiful deity. And why? Because he's feeling that this deity belongs to me. So that feeling of possessiveness, that Krishna is mine, that is the feeling of friendship, that I must take care of him. And in that feeling, one will actually transgress a normal principle of bhakti, which we just read in the 64 items of devotional service, that one should not lie down in the temple. That's one of the principles of bhakti. One of the elements that, one of the things that Rupa Goswami mentions. We should not sleep in the temple, but the devotee will do so. Similarly, the disciple may sleep in the same room as a spiritual master. Why? Just to care for the spiritual master. The spiritual master may be old and, may need help at night, so the disciple may sleep, even though it's an offense. The disciple should not sleep in the same room as a spiritual master, but they may do for their feeling of friendship. Lying down in the temple should be classed as Raganuga sadhana because of disregard for Vaidhi sadhana. However, attraction for feelings of friendship is cultivated in both Raganuga sadhana and Vaidhi sadhana. So this feeling of friendship continues on in Raganuga sadhana, and when it's on that spontaneous platform, then in Raganuga sadhana, we sometimes, not generally, but sometimes have to disregard the principles of Vaidhi sadhana. I am the well-wisher of the Lord. This is the summary of Mitra. I am the well-wisher of the Lord. We, the minuscule living entities, but yes, in that mood we feel, I am the well-wisher of the Lord. Like him, I want to help others and relieve their distress. I especially show my friendship with the Lord by teaching others of his glories and the secret of surrender to him. I want to relieve the Lord of any inconvenience out of friendship. I may also in friendship see the Lord in intimacy with informality. So the devotee sees the Lord in friendship, in intimacy, in informality. Number 49, one should offer everything to the Lord. One should offer everything to the Lord. Atmanivedanam, surrendering everything, considering oneself the possession of the Lord. So we have the 9 processes of bhakti. The final one is Atmanivedanam. And in some ways, that is the highest process. because Atmanivedanam includes Shravanam and Kirtanam. It's surrendering all of our senses to the Lord. So we continuously hear about the Lord, we chant about him, we serve him, we preach about him, everything. We are completely surrendered to the Lord. Whatever the Lord wants, I will do, and I will only do whatever is a service to the Lord. Self is sometimes considered to refer to the spirit self or soul, and self is sometimes considered to refer to the mind or to the body. Full self-surrender, therefore, means not only surrendering one's self as spirit soul, but also surrendering one's mind and body to the service of the Lord. So, this is so nice, right? We must surrender our body, mind, and soul, all three things to the Lord. And what is that? That is sannyas. This is why the sannyasi carries that stick. What is that stick? It is actually 3 sticks. The danda is 3 danda, 3 sticks. And what does those 3 sticks represent? Why the sannyasis have that? You may have wondered. They represent the mind, the body, and the soul. That's 3 danda sannyas. Offering the body as Atma is illustrated in Bhakti Viveka. So now we talked about the first one, surrendering one's soul. In the Bhakti Viveka, it is stated, just as one does not worry about an animal that has been sold, one should offer this body to the Lord and be disinterested in its maintenance. In other words, one should not bother about his personal or family maintenance or sustenance. If one is actually surrendered in body and soul, he should always remember that his only concern is to be engaged in the service of the Lord. So this body is like an animal. It's just like, it's like, it's just a piece of flesh. So a devotee is not interested in maintaining it and grooming it and making it beautiful and this and that. He just wants to serve the Lord. He may, he may take care of the body so that he can serve the Lord nicely. But in general, he just neglects the demands of his body. And so offering the body as Atma, this is what it means. So offering the body as a self, so body, mind, and soul, means engaging the bodies wholly and solely in the service of Krishna. Because he has offered his body to the Lord, he gives up all activities for pleasure in this life and the next, which nourish his body and things related to that body. The Lord then thinks, I desire to make him special. He then attains freedom from death, amritatvam, and attains similarity to me, atma bhuyaya. This means that he attains liberation in the form of attaining his swarupa and sarshti powers like those of the Lord's. So everyone is dear to the Lord, but especially those who surrender. The Bhagavatam mentions that the brahmacharis are the heart of the Lord. Especially if one gives up one's body and the pleasures connected to the body to the Lord, one becomes very spiritually blessed. I desire to make him special. He attains freedom from death and he attains liberation. Surrender of self as mind. So now we look at the mind, the second one. How do we surrender the mind? My mind, my household affairs, my body, whatever is in my possession, my dear Lord, I offer to you for your service. Now you can do with them as you like. You are the supreme possessor of everything. So if you like, you can kill me. Or if you like, you can give me protection. All authority belongs to you. I have nothing to claim as my own. So this is offering the mind, because we're giving up fear. We're giving up a sense of defense. We're giving up a sense of, you know, I'm my protector. I'm, you know, security, so to say. You are the supreme possessor. You can kill me. You can protect me. And this mindset actually gives so much freedom. Like I was thinking about this, you know, it gives us so much happiness, and removes our anxieties and our tension so much, because like we were just watching this film of Saint John of the Cross. He's a Christian saint, and uh, his quality was that he was very much like Queen Kunti. He wanted to suffer for God. That was like his thing, that he was not afraid to die for the Lord. And in his preaching work at that time, when he lived, you know, there's a lot of persecution of the Christians, and so he was persecuted in many ways, and eventually he dies. Due to, he was about 50 years old due to some disease, you know, just out of he was forced to travel so much that he couldn't keep up his health. He was, you know, one monastery didn't want him because, you know, he was a true devotee, and the gluttonous leaders, they would of the churches, they would see him as a threat, because he would question the status quo. They were leading a life of sensual enjoyment. He was leading a life of austerity. And so they sent him to this very far out monastery, out in the middle of nowhere. And in the course of his travels, he died eventually. But the point is that Krishna, right? Krishna becomes especially pleased when we have this mentality and this mood that we're not afraid to die for him. We're not afraid of death. We're not afraid of sacrificing our existence for his service. And that's the mindset of a devotee. Madhubhi Rakubhi Jo Ichhatu Ar. Amar Nityadas. I am your servant. And this is not a physical thing. This is a mental state. My mind, my everything, I offer it to your service. You are the possessor of everything. You can do anything. Nothing belongs to me. This body itself does not belong to me. So if you want to take this body, please feel free to do so, O Krishna. It is your claim on my body. And here we go. This is the song of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which I was referring to. It's called Manasa Dehogyo. It's the mind, offering the mind. Sampade vipade jivane marane dae mama gela tua o pada bharane. Sampade vipade. He says here, what is the translation for this? It's not appearing. In good fortune or in bad, in life or in death, all my difficulties have disappeared by choosing those feet of yours as my only shelter. So all my difficulties disappear when I choose your feet as my only shelter. This is what it means to take Krishna as our only shelter. It means that our difficulties go away, because in good fortune or in bad, Krishna is our only shelter. So we have no difficulties. And then the verse that I was quoting before that, slay me or protect me, Madhubhi Rakubhi, as you wish, for you are the master of your eternal servant. So wonderful. So this means, this is an example of offering one's mind to the service of Krishna. So now finally surrendering the self as the soul, Sri Yamunacharya in his prayers to the Lord has expressed a similar idea in the following words. My dear Lord, I may be living within some body as a human being or as a demigod, but whatever mode of life, I do not mind, because these bodies are simply byproducts of the three modes of material nature, and I who am in possession of these bodies am surrendering myself unto you. So Yamunacharya is recognizing that his specific body is just a temporary covering. That is not me. So then what is he saying? That I, who am in possession of these bodies, am surrendering myself unto you. I am not just surrendering these temporary bodies because then my body will change. I am surrendering my soul to you. I am surrendering me to you, not my temporary byproduct of this body. Atmanivedanam in its pure form is rare because of the difficulty in execution, not because of having an elevated status, since it may be executed even without bhava. However, if Atmanivedanam becomes mixed with emotional relationships, it will become rare because of its elevated status as well. So, what's very interesting, amazing, what's being told here is that we can also attain this stage of Atmanivedanam even in the platform of sadhana bhakti. And we see so many devotees did this for Srila Prabhupada. They gave up everything and they just served Prabhupada. That's all they did. Their whole life and soul was Prabhupada. They gave up their college education, they gave up their families, they got on a bus, and 24 hours a day they were just doing Harinam, preaching, traveling from one place to another. At that point, they were not on the level of bhava or even raganuga bhakti. They were on the level of sadhana bhakti, but they practiced Atmanivedanam. However, this is rare. Why? Because now we see, especially now, right, that there's very few devotees who can practice brahmachari life. Generally, Atmanivedanam requires a life of full surrender. Mind, body, words means no personal pleasure. And in the household ashram, it's hard to do because, that's the whole basis of the ashram. The children want something, the husband or the wife wants something, and we have to satisfy their desires. We have to satisfy our own desires. We're also serving Krishna. We're, trying to make our family into devotees. We're making our family into devotees and ourselves into devotees. But still, this is, the ashram itself, by definition, is also something for us. This is why we took the ashram and didn't just full-time become a devotee. So therefore, Atmanivedanam is rare. But we householders can also aspire for Atmanivedanam, which means more and more doing for Krishna and less doing for ourselves, requiring less and less time and requirements for ourselves, and absorb more and more in service to Krishna. And there's many householders in our movement who are practicing Atmanivedanam. So it does not require bhava. However, Atmanivedanam is also on the level of bhava, emotional relationships, raganuga bhakti. And if it's on that stage, then it's very, very rare and it has a very elevated status. Number 50, one should offer a favorite article such as a food or a garment to Krishna. So one should offer a favorite article. So on, Lord Nityananda's appearance day or Lord Balaram's appearance day, we offer them honey because that's a favorite article of the Lord. One should take all kinds of risks and perform all endeavors for Krishna's benefit. This is a very beautiful point. That, being a friend to Krishna, surrendering our life to Krishna, practicing Atmanivedanam involves accepting risks. Until we take a risk for Krishna, we can't, bhakti becomes very nice when we take up risks for Krishna. So Prabhupada took a risk by coming to America. Risk means that that we have accepted the Lord as our shelter. So what's the walk of the talk? What's the test of our surrender to Krishna, of our accepting the Lord as our only shelter and our friend? That we will be willing to take risk for him. And so many devotees, we see that they are innovating ways of serving Krishna. They are preaching in unknown lands. Why? Because they took a risk for Krishna. They are willing to take a risk for Krishna. If we are we want to do everything with a lot of caution and, so to say, doing everything very nicely, you could say planned, that's nice, but it can also be a drawback. Where we're trying to do everything like, I'm looking for a particular word, with everything with a backup plan and with security and support and, all these things, then nothing moves forward. We have to be willing to be like the businessmen are who become millionaires. They literally risk everything. They leverage everything. And sometimes they lose everything, and sometimes they gain everything. So when we risk for Krishna, we may fail, but that is also success. In material life, that's not success, but that is success. And if we risk for Krishna, we may also succeed. And of course, that is success. But either way, there's success. So we should take all kinds, not just risk, but Prabhupada here is saying, all kinds of risks and perform all endeavors for Krishna's benefit. Of course, we should not be foolish. So, we should not go on Harinam in a Muslim country outdoors, knowing that they will come and just kill us. But we should go to Muslim countries and preach, but do it in an intelligent way. So if we take the risk, but we take a calculated risk so that we can serve the Lord. The point is the risk is being taken for the service of Krishna. So the risk should not become a disservice. It should be an attempt to do a service. Not only should a devotee engage himself in the prescribed duties of devotional service, which are mentioned in the revealed scriptures, but he should also perform the duties of his practical life in Krishna consciousness. For example, a devotee who has a great establishment or factory may offer the fruits of such immaterial possession for the service of the Lord. So we should do the regulated devotional service, but we should also perform our practical duties for Krishna. Not that, sometimes devotees you see this for doctors, lawyers, millionaires, they will come to the temple and wash dishes. So nice, right? They come to the temple and after the Sunday feast, they come and they wash the dishes because this is bhakti and, it's so nice they're taking up this humble service. So many people will not do that, but they will do that. But then, well, that's very good and we should do that. But then when it's time to, give a portion of their immense wealth to Krishna, then they step back. Oh, no. That they cannot do. They'll come and wash dishes because, they're sitting at the desk all the time, and coming and washing dishes is good exercise and it feels very good, some practical seva, they'll clean the temple floor. But then they won't engage their skills in Krishna service. And I actually knew one lawyer like this. He was a devotee lawyer. He was a devotee and he was a lawyer, so skilled. And when the temple needed legal help, then he would charge like a big bill. But then every Sunday he would come and wash dishes. And it's like, okay, very nice, but why don't you engage your skill in Krishna service? The temple, the devotees need legal help. It's clearly for the temple, no personal work for the devotee or something. Just the temple needs certain 501(c)(3) forms done and non-profit forms done. I also knew a CPA like this, devotee CPA, and they're enthusiastic in attending the classes and doing things, but not enthusiastic in using their skills in Krishna service. And that's not bhakti. Bhakti means engaging mind, body, and soul, engaging our skills in Krishna service, offering our material possessions our skills, our wealth, our time. For a doctor, then helping, care for devotees. I was, the same film, St. John of the Cross. St. John of the Cross, he says how caring for the poor, caring for the sick is service to God. And, sometimes we have such advanced principles in our movement, we forget about the simple principles. In the advanced principles, we lose sometimes just the basic items of devotion, which are then very nicely highlighted in Christianity, because they don't have, that esoteric raganuga bhakti. Then their teachings on sadhana are sometimes very straightforward. So caring for sick devotees is a quality of a great soul. That is compassion, that is service to God. Mother Teresa, all these great saints, they were caring for the sick. Of course, we don't just care for their body, but caring for the soul, Bhaktivinoda Thakur also means caring for the body, being compassionate towards a devotee when they are sick, taking care of the temple, the residents of the temple, the older devotees, the sick devotees, the elderly. This is all part of giving our possession to the service of the Lord. In every condition, one should be a surrendered soul. The acharyas, they present things in such meaningful ways. In every condition, we should be a surrendered soul. Okay, Krishna is not making things work in this way, I'll surrender to his will. Again, this doesn't mean not being intelligent or not doing the needful. But what does it mean then? It means having the mindset of the surrendered soul. That, okay, I will try my best to rectify the situation. I will do the needful. But if that doesn't work, then that's Krishna's will. Then I'll accept it, because I tried my best, but Krishna was not helping. And so now Krishna's in control. And trying our best could mean, making strenuous efforts, but ultimately knowing that Krishna's in charge. And a nice example of this is when Srila Prabhupada translated the Bhagavad Gita. So he made the whole translation. And then what happened? His wife sold it in exchange for a packet of biscuits and tea. And after doing that, someone would have thought that, well, I translated the entire Gita and clearly Krishna didn't like my translation, didn't want it. So now I shouldn't translate it because Krishna didn't want it. But Srila Prabhupada translates it all over again. Just imagine, he had one copy. He could have made hundreds of copies, but he did it all over again. So there's no shortage of effort. But then still he knew that his success depended fully on Krishna. So our success in any activity depends on Krishna. So at a certain point then, we have to become detached. That I will try my best, but Krishna is the controller. If it doesn't work, then it must be something that Krishna is teaching me, or it must be the results of my past karma, and my service at this time, very service, is just to accept this and tolerate it. Number 52, Sharanapati, accepting the Lord's protection. So this whole section, its theme is so nice. I mean, it's just like, it's such a wonderful section. I just want to see how many more slides there are, so I can plan accordingly. Okay, we're almost at the end, so we can finish this. Accepting the Lord's protection. With faith in protection by body, mind, and words. My dear Lord, a person who has surrendered himself unto you, who is in firm conviction that he is yours, and who actually acts in that way by his body, mind, and words, can actually relish transcendental bliss. See, how can we relish transcendental bliss if we're worried about our body and mind, and our we can only relish it when we have no cares. In the Nrsimha Purana, Lord Nrsimhadev says, anyone who prays unto me and takes shelter of me becomes my ward, and I protect him always from all sorts of calamities. So it's actually a principle of devotion. We must beg for the protection of the Lord. Because someone may say, well, that's not pure bhakti, that's selfishness. I'm asking the Lord for something. But the devotee can pray to the Lord, because the Lord is, everything for him is the Lord. So the Lord is his only shelter and protection. But he's not just praying for material protection. He's praying for spiritual protection. He's praying to Lord Nrsimhadev that please protect my spiritual life. Please don't let me fall. Please don't let me offend a devotee of the Lord. This is actually how Prabhupada used to pray. He would pray to the Lord, please don't let me fall in Maya. Please don't, we can pray like this, that, oh Lord Nrsimhadev, make it impossible for me to offend a devotee of the Lord. And then Lord Nrsimhadev, if we pray to him like that, then when we want to, then he won't let us. He'll, stop us in our tracks. He will, protect us. If Krishna likes, he may keep his devotee in a poverty-stricken condition. Or if he likes, he may keep him in an opulent position. The devotee should not be concerned in either case. He should simply be very serious about trying to satisfy the Lord by rendering him service. So beautiful, right? So, if we have opulence, then we can engage at everything in Krishna service. And if we don't have opulence, then what a great asset. We don't have to become attached to any of it, and we can just serve Krishna. What is the relationship between Atmanivedanam and Sharanapati? A surrendered devotee may engage in both of these limbs of bhakti, thus encompassing all 6 aspects of surrender. Some devotees take up only one. For example, Rupa Goswami describes Atmanivedanam as very rare because of its difficulty. Many devotees will find Sharanapati a comforting and desired way to live. So Sharanapati is like what Ramanujacharya said, Sharanagati, right? So just surrendering to Krishna is so much easier in some ways than Atmanivedana. Why is it easier? Because surrender means, in our case, it means that you become a servant of a devotee. We can't surrender the problem is, to surrender our body is easy, but to surrender our mind and words are very hard. Because how do we think of Krishna always? We want to think of this or that. We want to, talk to people and have good conversation and, joke and, play a game of sports. So we have these desires, and the problem is Atmanivedana means that body, mind, and words, we only think of Krishna. But one thing we can do is we can just become a servant of a devotee. And if we please that devotee, then we go back to Godhead. And that is Sharanapati. So Sharanapati, surrender, is easier than Atmanivedanam. Even though Atmanivedanam seems like surrender, but this is easier surrender. It doesn't require all mind, body, and words. Conversely, at advanced levels of spiritual realization, some devotees have a mood that they are caring for the Lord. Such devotees include those who act as his parents and teachers in his various incarnations. So one thing is accepting the shelter of the Lord. Another is feeling that you must give shelter to Krishna. You must give shelter to the Lord. Thus, Sharanapati would be at odds with their ecstatic loving mood. Yet such persons could fully take up the practice of Atmanivedanam. Of course, from an ontological perspective, even those in an ecstasy of feeling that they are the ones who care for Krishna are really under his care and protection. So the gopis are under his care and protection. Nanda Maharaj is under his care and protection. But in that ecstasy, they don't remember, but they still are. But even in that ecstasy, they can do Atmanivedanam, and they are doing for sure, that their mind, body, and words are completely focused on Krishna. So Atmanivedanam means that mind, body, and words, and the devotees of Krishna who have no other thought other than Krishna, they are automatically practicing that. One should pour water on the tulsi tree. So it almost seems like every section ends with tulsi. One of our previous sections also ended with tulsi. Serving tulsi is so special. Offering water to tulsi is so special. Whatever we do every day, we should offer some water to Tulsi Maharani. We should give her a few drops of water. This is why the morning program is there. Every day we should offer, we should do Tulsi Puja. We shouldn't skip that part. We should keep a Tulsi in our home. We should learn how to take care of her. There's special lamps that come. There's a Facebook page. And there's so much support now in our movement on Tulsi care. The item 10 refers to the attitude towards these, and item 53 refers to physical acts of service for them. So item 10 was to respect living entities who are related to Krishna, like the banyan trees, cows, brahmanas, and tulsi. And so 10, what's the difference between this item and 53? 10 was saying that we should have a mood of respect towards the trees, cows, brahmanas, and tulsi. 53 is saying that we should actually perform these physical acts of service. This item 53 offers specific ways in which to daily serve such entities, especially Tulsi Devi. Ways to serve Tulsi: simply by seeing, simply by praying; two, simply by bowing before, simply by hearing about, or simply by serving the tree. There's always auspiciousness. Which tree? The Tulsi tree. So if you want to have always auspiciousness in your home, then keep Tulsi, serve Tulsi, bow down before Tulsi, and then everything will be auspicious. Actually, Prabhupada said that the quality of our bhakti can be seen by the flowering of Tulsi. Of course, not always. Sometimes in households in India, in rich family homes, there's like, full gardens of Tulsi, and they come and trim Tulsi, and she's flowering there, but there's not much bhakti there. But anyway, it's like an indication. Also, Tulsi is very much also like a deity. If we don't worship her, the plant can be there, but she will not be there. And so we actually get Tulsi due to the mercy of Govinda Dasi, who was a disciple of Prabhupada. Like you had Yamuna Devi, Prabhupada empowered her to cook for Krishna. Govinda Dasi was a cook and sing for Krishna. Govinda Dasi was empowered specifically to serve Tulsi. And he gave that service to her, and she took that service as her life and soul. And so Prabhupada had got Tulsi from Vrindavan, and he gave those seeds to Govinda Dasi. Govinda Dasi grew hundreds of plants, and those distributed in different ISKCON temples. And from those temples and those plants, we get the seeds. And we worship them. So when we worship in this parampara, and when we worship Tulsi in the mood of reverence, in the way that Prabhupada told us, by offering her prayers that Prabhupada gave us, then she manifests. And then when she manifests and she flowers, then we know the bhakti is flowering. So when Tulsi is not worshipped, then she disappears. She may become holy basil. But when she's worshipped and cared for, then she reveals herself. And that is the end, chapter 12. Okay, so wonderful. We have about 10 minutes for questions or comments, and then we will end. And if there's none, that's also okay, because we can end now. Hare Krishna, Dhanavad Pranam Prabhu, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Prabhupada. God bless you. It was a nice class. I just wanted to extend on topic of protection, which comes many times in our teaching as well as discussions in the devotional circles. There is a spiritual protection and there is a this material protection. So
Mm,
many times, devotees, even the very advanced devotees, they get hurt while serving.
mm,
And do we call it as protection, or actually they are protected spiritually, and material protection or material ups and downs are maybe uh, not classified as protection? Maybe uh, I'm just looking for explanation on how a devotee should take these kind of happenings in life.
yes. So protection uh, is spiritual protection, but that spiritual protection can sometimes also manifest as material protection. So, in order to do one's service, in order for the devotee to do their service, they need a body. So, Krishna may protect the body of a devotee, and the devotee may ask the Lord for protection of his or her body so that they can serve Krishna. And the nice example of this is Draupadi. When Draupadi's Vastaharan was going on, why did she raise her hands and call out to Krishna? Ultimately, it was her body. So, why did she care to protect her body? Because the Pandavas knew and she knew that if they were successful in doing this, her service would be finished. She would actually had to give up her body then. She could not have stayed in that body. It was like such an, the Shashan was so impure. If you had touched the body of Draupadi like that or seen the body, then it would have, made her service impossible. So the devotee may, and Rupa Goswami says this, that the devotee may call out to Krishna, please save me if the devotee is drowning, because the devotee knows that he needs that body for Krishna's service, and such calling out is not a violation of pure bhakti. It's part of it.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Nice question. Nice points. Yes. So we can ask Krishna for material things material protection, inasmuch as it is wholly and solely for the service of Krishna. Kamala Mataji.
Hare Krishna Dandatika Prabhuji.
Hare
So
Krishna.
very nice lecture, Prabhuji, as always. So, Prabhuji, I have a question here. Like we were discussing about the service, and so there are so many limbs in bhakti, like Shravanam, Kirtanam, and just doing the service. So how we are going to, like, especially when we go to the temple, how we should prioritize? Like there is a nice lecture going on or a very nice kirtan going on, but we see that the kitchen needs more attention. So how we should decide which way we should go? I always get confused. Thank you so much.
Yes. Well, we should try to do everything. So if we can do the service before the lecture, then we can attend the lecture and do the service. But certain services, like, some devotees have service during class time or during the japa time. Certain services we cannot do at other times. And then we have to find the balance. So if there's maybe 2 or 3 devotees, then we take turns, and then one person listens, one person cooks. Or if there's a recording of it, then we can do our service and listen to the recording later on. So we're acting in such a way, we use our intelligence, and this is why Krishna gave us intelligence, and Krishna also manifests through our intelligence. If we apply it to Krishna, we have to use our intelligence to figure out that if Prabhupada was here, what would have been most pleasing to him? Would it have been most pleasing to him if I attend the class, or was it be most pleasing to him if I do the dishes at this time? And that can be, well, what will please the senior devotees, or Prabhupada at times chastise the devotees, that your spiritual master is speaking and why you are not sitting here and listening, why you're doing other services. On other times, Shyam Sundar Prabhu I think it's Shamsundar or Shuttakirti Prabhu. I think it's Shamsundar Prabhu. He was cooking a feast for the devotees while Prabhupada was giving lecture, so that after the lecture they could serve out the feast. And he selflessly did this. No one wanted to miss Prabhupada's association, but he missed it. And Prabhupada became so happy when he heard this with his selfless devotion that after that he said, "You're my personal servant," and he let him be his personal servant. So it's very hard to figure out at times. But the key thing is that, are we really trying our best, or are we like fooling around? Like Shyam Sundar was not doing it just because he had some idea. He was doing it specifically as Prabhupada's service. He knew that after the lecture, Prabhupada would want a feast for the devotees. So just to please Prabhupada, he did that. And not because he wanted to listen to the lecture, not because he didn't want to listen, so let me do this. It was about serving Prabhupada, this or that, but I'll serve Prabhupada.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Nice pointer. So I'll just keep that in mind, that whatever should please Prabhupada, I should focus more on that. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Nice point. Nice question. Hare Krishna, Manohar Chaitanya Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Please
Krishna.
accept my obeisances. Prabhuji, like there is like one underlying question I had in these, like, you know, in these, like we have to consider Krishna as the protector in every situation, and second thing is like we have to what is that, think about Krishna in friendship, that Krishna like Krishna is my friend, so Krishna will help me.
Yes.
So these things, Prabhuji, like do we have to keep telling our mind this thing, and is it for us, because we are not on that state to actually, like, we are experiencing that friendship with Krishna or something. So is it something that we need to keep reminding ourselves and doing it, or is it being explained here as a characteristic of as an advanced devotee? That is my first question.
No, this is all these 64 items are for Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. So as a sadhaka, it's a very good question that you're bringing up. Yeah, because we think of friendship generally on the level of raganuga, but no, friendship should also be there on the level of sadhana. And there's one place that Prabhupada writes that a disciple should consider the spiritual master as his best friend. Why? A friend in the sense that he has my best interest in mind. And one should think that I am a friend to the spiritual master, which means I should have my spiritual master's best interest in mind. So in the sense of best interest, in the sense of preaching, we should inculcate the mood of friendship. Because if you really love someone, if you really are a servant to someone, you are also their friend. So we're not just serving out of duty, I should serve because I should serve, but we're serving out of friendship in a more enthusiastic way. Like you have the bodyguard, he's serving, but or the waitress or the waiter. But then you have a servant who's also who a friendly servant, a servant who's like, a lifelong friend, confidant. Like in India, sometimes people have servants who grow up in the same home. Like ever since they're small boys, they'll be living in the home and they'll grow up with the family. And those servants, they become friends with the kids also of where they are a servant. And they become friends to the family, and then the family will also care for them and arrange their wedding and maybe arrange a home for them to stay. So that service, they're servants, clearly they're servants, but they get a mood of friendship. They're servants, but close servants, and that's the mood.
So like one thing which I understood is, like, if we can do this for spiritual master, I think we can do it very easily. But I mean, at least at the sadhana stage, I mean, that is what you have explained, right, Prabhu? I mean, just
and that's where it begins. You're absolutely right. It begins by inculcating this mood for the spiritual master. But preaching, Prabhupada said, is friendship to the Lord. So we don't have that feeling.
Oh,
We
okay.
understand that preaching is, when we preach about Krishna, that's not just serving Krishna, because you can clean the floor of the temple all day and still be serving Krishna. But when we preach, then it's not just that we're serving, but we're putting our neck out for Krishna. You see, this is why preaching is hard. It's like recently we were doing a program here, and I was like, should I call these people? Should I not? What will they think if I call them? I just met them once. And you have to put your neck out there. You know, it's like, you know, sometimes they cut the phone on your face. So this is friendship, Prabhupada says. So though we don't have the feelings of friendship, if we engage in the activity of friendship, then we know we're practicing friendship for Krishna. Or that's how we develop the feeling, by engaging in those activities of friendship.
And can I ask one more question? Do you have time, Prabhu?
Yes, last one. This is
Okay. Like another question is like yeah, so I'm trying to do this activities of friendship, like I try to go out and preach and stuff, but I have my own baggage behind me, like which keeps coming back again and again. So is it at that point, like should I can I actually consider myself to be protected by Krishna? I mean, that is a question that is, because it is like, the way I understand is, either we are in like we are bind by karma, okay, or there is a state where Krishna takes complete control. So it appears to me like I am in a state where, in the middle of everything. So so in that case, like, can I actually ask Krishna to take care of me? Because of course I'm trying my best to reduce that stuff, but it's still not yet gone, and there is a sense of guilt inside that, and confusion. So what is that I need to do at those times? What is that I need to think that what should be my frame of mind?
Yes, well, there's a nice story of the merchant who comes to Sanatan Goswami, and he's a sailor, and he's taking a boatload of salt in the Yamuna River to sell in the other city, and his boat becomes stuck in a sandbar, and there's thousands of rupees of salt on this boat. And so he goes to Sanatan Goswami and he says, if you help me, then I will help you. And then Sanatan Goswami says, I cannot help you, but Madan Mohan can help you. You go and talk to Madan Mohan. And then he goes to the deity and he says, if you free my boat, then with the sale of the money of the salt, I'll build you a beautiful temple. And very that moment, Madan Mohan frees his ship and it starts to sail. And after that, when it sails, he takes the salt, he sells it, and everything that he earns from it, he comes and builds a beautiful temple. Now, this sailor also was actually a very advanced devotee. Why? Because normally what happens is, he prayed to Madan Mohan, and then at that moment, the boat is free. And what happens then at that point is we think, oh, it was a coincidence. By chance, at that time, a wave came and my boat got free. And well, anyway, now it's free and we're off, right? So like the sailor, we also can ask Krishna for full protection, that you, Krishna, help me. But then the only thing is that then if Krishna gives the protection, we have to be then willing to give our success, the benefits of what we get from Krishna's protection, we should be willing to give that to the Lord. Right? Like, we ask when we're not married, when we're young, we ask Krishna, Krishna, please give me a nice family so I can serve Krishna. But then we get a nice family, and the first thing we forget is Krishna. People forget. It's like, oh, Krishna, please give me a nice home. So you get a nice home. The first thing when we get a nice home, forget Krishna. So we can absolutely ask Krishna for all protection. This is why Rupa Goswami is saying, but the devotee is asking for the service of Krishna. When it was a centennial year and they wanted to do glorious things for Prabhupada's 100th centennial year, 1996, devotees were going and asking the Lord, please give me money. Please give us money so that we can do this for Prabhupada, that for Prabhupada. And when they got the money, then they engaged in Prabhupada's service. So then everything is successful. Then we can ask Krishna openly, Dhanam Dehi, give me money, give me wealth, give me everything.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Such a nice point. Thank you, everyone, for your wonderful, kind attention. And we're very grateful. I'm very grateful for your association every week. Thank you for your patience, your tolerance. And the homework has already been posted for all the remaining chapters of Nectar Devotion. So please keep doing the homework. And this week, I finally was able to contact Andrew Prabhu yesterday. I was calling him all week, but he wasn't well. And so he picked up the phone yesterday. And now he's taught me how to do it. So now I need to find time and just do it and send the recordings out as well. So, thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
And we're also, I mentioned, we're very grateful to him for all the service that he does. So please send your support to him at this time. Thank you. Hare Krishna.